Well, thanks to all of you for being here this morning. What we're going to do is kind of just run through some general information about benefits of promoting alternative transportation in the workplace, and then we'll talk about some specifics of how you could promote transit here in Fort Collins, and Molly will talk to you guys a lot about bicycling and all the different things we can do with that. The commute is really a big part of an employee's experience in their workplace. So things that you can do to impact that in a positive way go a long way, because the way that an employee feels about commute relates to the morale, their productivity, job satisfaction, absenteeism, all of those things. And there's really three big factors related to the commute that influence those things. So time spent commuting, money spent commuting, and then just the stress that commuting can often hold. So let's look at cost as the first factor there. I think this is a really interesting statistic. For every dollar earned, the average household spends 18 cents on transportation, 94% of which is for buying, maintaining, and operating cars. So that's a lot of our money that we're working to earn, your employees are earning, going to their transportation cost. So I'm not sure how well this slide translates for you guys, if it's easy to see or not, but this is from AAA's 2012 edition, Your Driving Costs. And if we look across here, going down the rows, it has costs for a small sedan, medium sedan, large sedan, and then the average. And if we look at the very bottom row, total cost per year on average is just over $10,000 to have a car operate it and maintain it. So that's a pretty significant amount of money. Well, let's also look at time. So the average commuter spent 6 minutes longer driving to or from work in 2001 than he or she did in 1983. And that amounts to 50 hours per year, more than a full work week of additional time spent commuting. So we're spending more time in our cars than ever before. A lot of that is due in part to traffic congestion. In 2005, it created an estimated $78 billion drain on the economy in the form of $4.2 billion of lost time and 2.9 billion gallons of gas wasted. So in a lot of cases, not only are we maybe commuting further because people have moved outward, but there's more cars on the road than ever before because, back in the day, maybe households had one car and people shared and used that together. Now everybody has their own car and they're all on the road trying to get different places. So ironically, it's really slowing us down. Not only is it slowing us down and costing us a lot of money, it's stressing us out. When we're stuck on the road, I'm sure you all can relate, it feels like wasted time. You just want to get there. Unpredictable. You don't know, if there's accidents or road construction going on. So if you consider some of the benefits of riding transit or bicycling or doing some other alternative options for working and how you get to work or how like teleworking or things like that, it can really reduce a lot of these stress factors and actually also contribute to improved health. And all of those things go back into how an employee feels about their job, because if they're having to spend a lot of time commuting to get to the job, it's costing them money, it's stressing them out, that's going to play into how they feel when they're at work. The good news is that employers have influence, and that's definitely what Molly and I are here to talk about today. And we will specifically talk about transit and biking options here in Fort Collins that you all can influence as ClimateWise partners at your businesses. But other great things to consider also are van pool. The North Front Range MPO offers a good program with that, and you can promote carpooling within your business, and teleworking is also another option to consider. So with all of those, it's important to point out that when you are starting programs around alternative transportation, it's also a good time to be a little bit more flexible and open-minded about maybe how the workday operates. Folks who ride the bus there may only be an hour service, so they may have to be, if you want them to start at 8 usually, maybe the bus doesn't arrive until 8:30. Think about changing up some of those things to make it easier for people to do that. But we'll get more into ways that you guys can promote those things. I do a lot of work with Transport, the bus system, so I will introduce here real quickly some of the pass options that we offer. Highlighted here in green are all passport passes that are available to businesses in the Fort Collins area. And these are annual costs. So as you can see, businesses can offer employees a pass for $50, and that includes unlimited rides on Transport. So that's a huge benefit. Can certainly go into, an offer package when you give an employee a transportation benefit like that. You can talk about, the costs of maintaining and operating a car, like we saw, $10,000. If an employee gets a bus pass, or even if as a business you have them pay the $50 for the pass, if you're set up to encourage transit or things like bicycling, you can be saving them that money. So the basics of Transport's passport program, it is available to all businesses in Fort Collins regardless of size, and it provides unlimited rides on all of Transport's routes. And I'm not sure if you guys know, there's actually a new route that connects Fort Collins to Longmont. It's called Flex. It stops in Loveland and Berthoud as well, and passport passes are good on that too. So I can speak, from experience here. I actually live in Longmont, and I ride Flex a couple times a week, and it's a huge savings for me to be able to do that. And it's, like we mentioned before, it's a predictable commute. I actually can recoup some of that time and work on the bus or do other things. So the addition of that route is pretty cool and might be good for some of your employees. As you can see here, this is a basic map of the bus system here in Fort Collins. I did bring maps and some flex schedules as well that you guys may want to pick up and take home. I think sometimes folks are surprised at maybe the options for bus use here in Fort Collins. A lot of times with ClimateWise partners, Transport will actually work with you to put together a map if you provide your employees' addresses and plot out where your employees live and lay over the Transport bus system so that you can actually see, oh wow, I'm not that far from Route 1 or whatnot. So that's a good way to show folks that maybe have never thought about it before how easy of an option it can be. We do also now have evening service on routes 3 and 6 when CSU is in session, so that's good news. And later I will talk a little bit about MAX, the bus rapid transit system that we're building, and construction starts on that this summer. That's going to be really exciting for transit in the community because it will really help change how our transit system works and create better connections and more of a grid system. So we'll talk about that more in a little bit. But it is a fun thing to kind of actually plot out where folks live and see if it's an option for people. So again, the cost to participate in Passport is $50 per pass. So that equates to just $4.17 a month to offer employees a really significant benefit. Again, if we're thinking about it costs $10,000 a year to maintain a car, if you guys are encouraging employees to bus or bike, maybe some households can go back to having that one car and use that when needed, but other times use these other options. And as an employer, you could provide the benefit of Passport in two ways. You can purchase the passes and then you could just give them to employees, or a lot of businesses will purchase the passes and then have the employee buy it back from them so that it's actually no cost to the employer and very low cost to the employee, so it's a win-win. And now I'll turn it over to Molly to let her talk about bicycling.
And just to kind of talk a little bit about the connectivity between Transport and FC Bikes, we are trying to collaborate more and talk more about how our transit system is not independent of other modes of transportation. You either have to walk to get to the bus, or you have to bike to get to the bus, or drive if we're using like a park and ride, for example. So FC Bikes is making more of an effort to collaborate with transport and interlink some of these, we're calling them sensible modes of transportation rather than alternative. So I'm going to speak specifically about one benefit that you can provide for your employees. There are lots of different iterations of this benefit, and certainly if any of you are interested, we could meet one-on-one after this and talk about a benefit that would be appropriate for your work group. But I'll speak specifically about one. And the purpose of us reaching out to our business community and encouraging you to implement these benefits is that FC Bike's goal is to double the number of bike-to-work cyclists from 2010 to 2015. And this data is based on our bike-to-work day data. And then in a recent survey, 7 out of 10 commuters indicated that having a benefit, having an incentive by their employer would incentivize them to ride their bike to work. So this is important for our local cyclists to encourage them to bike to work. And if our business community does step up and create these incentives, we can really be a role model nationally. So the requirements for this specific benefit are that you would add a policy to your HR handbook, and it would clearly define commuter. So for example, a commuter bikes 3 times or more per week. You would then collect receipts from commuters. So they would be self-identified commuters within your employee base. You would collect receipts from them, and then you would write reimbursement checks for tax-exempt wages up to $240 per year, so $20 per month. So these expenses could be for a new rain jacket, for fenders, for tubes, etc., for handlebar tape, anything that they need to maintain or improve their quality of their commute by bicycle. And then employers would include the payments on the IRS Form 941 12C and 12D, which is a form that you already submit. So it'd just be 2 additional line items on a form that you already are submitting. Why would you participate in this? Holly has alluded to this already. There's environmental benefits, less air pollution and less road congestion. And there's also health benefits, that employees would be more alert and make a better contribution in your workplace. And studies do show that bike commuters cost their employees less in insurance claims. But why wouldn't you participate? Administrative fees might be a reason, but the employees are required to do all of the record keeping. And you may determine how often your business offers the reimbursements, so you can determine if you want to do this quarterly, twice a year, or just annually. So you can really lower that administrative cost. And then finally, you might think that this is bad timing for a new economic investment. And for some of you, this might be a bad time to invest in a new benefit, especially for really small businesses that are operating on a really tight budget. This can be too expensive to offer $240 of additional payment to each employee. Or for really large businesses, to offer $240 to a large number of employees might be too expensive. It's a pretty good option for the mid-sized company. But even for any company who wants to offer an incentive, but this isn't a good fit, there are lots of different iterations of this that we can do. So for example, every 10 commutes, you could give them a $10 gift card to the DBA downtown businesses. Or you could give them a quarter for every mile ridden, for example. So you can create other incentives that are not quite as economically hard. And some of those include just improving the infrastructure that you have on site, so that when cyclists do get to work, they have a place to lock up safely. Whether it's inside like this and covered and they have lockers, that's like grade A, that's perfect. But even if it were at the very least having a bike rack close to the door at your work site. A step up would be having it covered. Another step up would be having lockers inside so that people can kind of store their gear not in their cubicle, in their small workspace. And in addition, another bigger step forward would be having showers. and having those facilities that make it comfortable once you get to work. If you have a 7-mile commute, if your employees are biking far enough that they need to kind of reset when they get to the office, that they have those facilities available. And then finally, there are a couple other ways that won't cost you anything that you can incentivize and give benefits to your employees who are cyclists. One is just by having resources available at your work site. We have maps and we have Colorado bicycling manuals available. So these kind of resources, just having these available at your work site is a free way to give your employees more information. We also have this annual publication called RIDE, which has a lot of great information about local competitive cycling, local events calendar, the new Bicycle Ambassador program. So having information like this available just to incentivize and educate your employees about cycling and what's going on locally. There's more information on that side table about the Ambassador program if you're interested. And we also, FC Bikes in partnership with the Bicycle and Pedestrian Education Coalition offers bicycle safety lunch and learns. So you can always send us an email and request a lunch and learn and give us a couple days that your work group is available, and we'll come in for free and do an hour to 2 of bicycle safety education. And we can focus on winter cycling, we can focus on commuting, we can focus on just picking a bike if that's where your employees are at. So we have kind of an array of presentations we can give to your employees as well.
Okay, so we're going to switch gears a little bit. I want to play you guys a video about, raise your hand if you've heard of Max. Okay, good. Well, I'd like to, since I'm here and I represent transportation, give you guys a little update on Max and the Mason Corridor and where we're at with that. So let me just pull that up real quick.
This is an exciting time to live in Fort Collins. Recognized as one of the best places to live, work, and play, Fort Collins is a leader in culture, sustainability, education, and outdoor activities. And now, the Mason Corridor will link major activity centers: downtown, Colorado State University, Midtown, and South College retail, as well as surrounding neighborhood areas. The Mason Corridor starts south of Harmony and extends north to Maple Street in downtown. When complete, the Mason Corridor will mix transportation, recreation, and urban lifestyle to create a spine of activity that runs through the city. Most importantly, the corridor will foster development of a strong community core to enrich the vibrant character of Fort Collins for years to come. At the heart of the Mason Corridor is MAX, Colorado's first bus rapid transit system. A bus rapid transit system is a lot like light rail. Buses travel in dedicated guideways for most of the route and receive priority at signalized intersections. This allows for faster and more convenient travel. Building MAX is a long-term investment in our community, and a smart one. Of the total project cost of $87 million, only $4 million is a direct investment by the City of Fort Collins. $14 million comes from state and local entities, and $69 million comes from the federal government. It's estimated that MAX service will cost about $1.35 million a year in operations and maintenance. The Mason Corridor is projected to have a regional economic impact of nearly $150 million and generate 1,000 jobs. Add to that nearly $600,000 per year in new sales tax revenue from the corridor, which will bolster existing and future city services. Mason is the first tangible example of the city's transit-oriented development policy, which was created in 2004. MAX is the transit in transit-oriented development. The completion of the Mason Trail, coupled with modern, convenient transit, will foster attractive and sustainable redevelopment. Shopping, dining, activities, gathering places, and employment are all centered around transit stops. Imagine the redevelopment of new businesses that will pop up along the Mason Corridor. Imagine clusters of coffee shops, dry cleaners, galleries, and service-oriented businesses. Imagine functional, modern, eco-friendly transit options. This vision is becoming a reality. Right now, the Mason Corridor and the MAX Bus Rapid Transit line are spurring private investment and community partnerships. As a community, we have the opportunity to get involved and shape our future. Through smart urban planning, economic development, and modern transit, the Mason Corridor will fundamentally change how the spine of our city looks and functions. This is our legacy.
I would love to talk about it because it is such an exciting project for our community. As you saw in the video there, Max is going to really change how people can get around our city. And the Mason Corridor is just such a cool concept because not only does it include transit, but it has a bike path and really is going to encourage lots of redevelopment in the center of our community. So, you know, where you're talking about right now, maybe it's the bus can sometimes be a hard sell. I'll be the first to admit it because our system, you know, has only certain hours and some of the routes only run every hour. So it's not always easy for employees or folks to ride the bus. But when Max comes online, it's going to offer a new option for a lot of people that may have never even used transit before. You know, I think that we will see an increase in interest in passport programs because along with Max at all of those stations, there'll be 12 stations from the South Transit Center, which is going to be located just south of Harmony Road, to the Downtown Transit Center. And at most of those stations, there's going to be some parking opportunities. So I see that as a nice way for folks that are newer to transit to kind of ease into it. You don't have to necessarily catch a bus at your house and then make a transfer and get on Max to go up or down, but maybe you can drive to Max and park there and then ride. So you cut down on some of your commute trip. Or we love, you know, bikes and buses. The trail systems are all already pretty well interconnected, and now you can extend that trip even further when Max comes online. So I did want to mention too that this summer they're going to start some pretty big construction for the Max Bus Rapid Transit system. And that construction is mainly going to happen from Laurel Street to Cherry Street downtown along Mason. And what they'll be doing is converting Mason to two-way traffic. And as part of that, the BNSF Railroad is going to replace all of their track in that area. So they have this really huge machine that is automated to do this. It'll be a sight to see when it happens, but it will also be pretty inconvenient for most of us because what they're going to have to do is in July, there'll be some rolling closures at the beginning of July along that stretch of Mason, and then I think it's July 23rd or somewhere around there. Thank you, Molly. 23rd through the 29th. That whole stretch, Laurel to Cherry of Mason, will be completely closed. And so no cars, no trains, and no pedestrians or bicycles crossing it either. So it's going to be a little chaotic, and we're trying to inform people and prepare you for that. We're working with Larimer County so that, you know, folks can figure out how to get into work. And we're looking at some options of possibly providing a shuttle or some other help to get people around so they don't have to walk all the way up to Cherry or all the way down to Laurel in order to cross that area of downtown. But that will be a short pain for a big gain. So that's something that's coming up pretty soon. You know, it really isn't going to operate like any of our buses currently. In the video, it mentioned it's like light rail. And actually what we've been saying as we're talking about it, it's like rubber-tired light rail. It's a much more economical option for a community like ours to install a bus rapid transit line than it would be to do light rail, but you get most of the same benefits. So some of those benefits include, like Kathy just mentioned, you'll be able to roll bikes or strollers or wheelchairs right onto the bus because all of the stations along the route will have platforms. And the bus, when it pulls up, it will be completely level with that platform. So the doors will open and you go right on. Another convenient boarding thing about Max will be that there won't actually be a fare box on the bus. You'll prepay your fare at the station through an electronic ticket vending machine. So you'll pay for your fare, you'll get a ticket, or if you have a pass, like passport, you'll just have that. And when the bus comes, once again, everyone can just hop on and off it goes. So that'll be checked through like random visits. If you've ridden Denver's light rail, you know, sometimes you see those patrol folks hop on and make sure you have your ticket. So that's how it'll work. So that really speeds the boarding and process and keeps things moving along. Additionally, with Max, for about 3/4 of the trip from downtown to the South Transit Center, Max will have its very own guideway, like it mentioned in the video, and so it won't have to compete with auto traffic or accidents or things like that. And when it approaches intersections that have a traffic signal, it'll have stuff on board that the signal recognizes, hey, this is Max coming, and it'll have priority at that signal. So once it gets there, the signal will change much more quickly for it than it would for an automobile, so it can continue moving along. So those are some of the things that make it pretty different than what buses are like that you've seen out in Fort Collins right now. So do you guys have any questions about Max? Or yay? Okay, go ahead. So the question was, will the cost of the Passport Pass go up when Max comes, and what will be the standard fare for Max? So right now, we're looking at those things, but expect that the fare will be the same standard fare as a transport fare. So it's currently $1.25. And you will be able to transfer from Max to other transport bus lines and vice versa, so that $1.25 could get you a lot of places. And then regarding Passport, it's anticipated that that will still be the same price as well, so $50 for that annual pass and the use of Max, which is pretty awesome. Other questions? You had one? Yes, so the question is, has there been an estimation of how long it'll take to travel the corridor? And it's estimated to be 20 minutes, so pretty quick. And another really great feature of Max that's going to be pretty different from what we see today is that it will have frequencies of 10 minutes. So if you're at a station, you really won't even have to have a schedule anymore. You can just show up, walk out to the station, and know that at most it'll be 10 minutes before the next bus comes. And that actually reminds me of another cool thing to talk about with Max, which is at these stations, there will be a lot more information about when the bus is coming. They're going to have what they call real-time arrival information, and there'll be sort of little LED boards that show a countdown to when the next bus is coming. So say you walk up to that station, you can see that, oh, okay, I've got 8 minutes before it comes. Transport's really excited about some of these new things that they'll be able to get in conjunction with Max. Another new technology will be a trip planner. I don't know if any of you have gone to our website or even tried to use the schedules to plan a trip, but it's a little cumbersome sometimes, especially if you're new to transit. And so when we get Max, we're also going to have a lot of improvements on our website where you'll be able to go and just say, I want to start here and end here, and I want to arrive at this time, and then it'll be able to spit out that nice answer of what you need to do in order to accomplish that. That's a great question. When Max starts, will we see changes to Transport's other routes and how they interact with Max? That is the plan. Transport has a strategic plan that has 3 phases to move it towards what they call a grid system, where you have a couple of spines running north-south, so Max would be a major one that travels north-south, and then you use other resources to move people east-west in a more timely and convenient way, so it all interacts together. And a lot of that will depend on budgeting and what the city and council decide to fund. But there are plans for that, and it'll just be a matter of time before we get there, depending on how much priority is placed on that, how fast we get there. Other questions? Is there going to be parking for the Bay Farm stop? I do believe there will be parking. I think it isn't determined yet how many spaces, because that area has a lot of retail and things like that. Right now they're negotiating with some of those retailers if they would be able to allow some of the spaces to be for park and ride, but I know they are planning on having parking available there. And that's going to be another really great stop on the corridor, because it will have an overpass with elevators that connect the side where all the retail is on the east with the employment centers on the west. So folks with bicycles will be able to enjoy, easily getting across the railroad tracks and things there. So it will certainly be a hub of activity, I think. How will Max and the train interact is a very good question. And what we're expecting is that I think on any given day in Fort Collins, there's usually about 6 to 8 trains that come through town. And when those trains come through town, what Transport plans to do is have with Max, all of their main central dispatch office will have clear ideas of where Max is at all times, and they'll be able to monitor when the train is coming into town. So the plan is to, with that real-time information of what's going on and where everything is, kind of coordinate to keep things flowing. So as the train really gets into town, all of the Max buses that are out en route may kind of pull into the nearest station, and there may be a little bit of a pause for the system as the train comes through town. But Transport is really planning to make sure that it doesn't create a bottleneck where, all of the Max buses get bunched up together. So they'll keep things spread out. It may cause, 5 to 10 minute delay in when Max next arrival is. But that is one thing that we do just kind of have to deal with.
And what about other users on Mason? What will the facilities be for bikes and for cars on the same facility?
Right. I think that may work very similarly as it does today. So bikes and cars will probably still, on most of the Mason corridor, bikes will have their trail, the Mason Trail, that they can continue along. In the downtown area is the only area where everything kind of mixes together. So from the University Station all the way to the Downtown Transit Center, everything will run along Mason. So the road will be shared with bikes, automobiles, and the Max buses. So that will be the area where, as the train comes through, everyone may kind of still operate like they do today, where there may be some waiting involved. Does Max cross the tracks? No, for the guideway runs on the east side of the tracks, and then when it gets to University, it merges with Mason Street, and they all will continue in that two-way Mason. Yes, we have acquired the right-of-way in that area, and it's the best way to kind of check it out is actually to go to fcgov.com/Mason, and on that page, on the sidebar of menu options, there's a page called Resources, and if you click on that page, we have several maps that detail how Max will really work along the stretch of the corridor, and there's even a map that calls out specifically how it will look in the CSU area, because it's so hard to imagine right now. So I would definitely recommend checking that out, but it will be a very different landscape through that stretch right there.
And there's also an e-newsletter on that site, right? So you can get weekly updates?
Yeah, that's a great thing to mention. So on fcgov.com/Mason, we have a few things that may be interesting to all of you guys. One, Molly just mentioned the e-newsletter. You can sign up to get that. We are sending it out about monthly right now, and it has a lot of information about all sorts of stuff related to the Mason corridor. So it may have an article about bicycling, an article about Max, an article about the latest new economic development that's coming as part of the Mason corridor. So it's pretty cool to get plugged into. Another thing that we have on that website is a sign up for construction alerts. And those are going to be they're still emails, but they're going to be very short and sweet, almost like text, that we send out throughout this summer and the rest of the project as all of these big construction impacts are happening. So if you happen to have a business that's near the corridor, or if you're downtown a lot, it's a good one to sign up for, especially in July. And then the third thing that I think is really cool that may be interesting to you all on that website is a sign up to request a presentation. So we have a group of folks kind of in rotation that we're sending out to businesses, civic groups, anyone who wants to have a presentation kind of like this to talk about the Mason corridor. So it could be something really cool to have done at your business and spread the word even more to employees about what's going on. So you can request that on the website.
And at the very least, it'd be great if you all would share this YouTube video with your employees. So the more people that know about this project, especially the closures in July, the better the transportation will be as the construction starts.
Right, and this video is on fcgov.com/Mason. And like Molly said, it's going to be about planning in July, you know, knowing what's happening and being able to plan ahead so that you're not frustrated when you go out to try to do something, because it'll probably impact bicyclists just as much as motorists in the downtown area. So I have not said when opening day would be, which is a great question. We're looking to have Max operational in the summer of 2014, so not too far off. And we're actually on May 21st, we'll be getting an official check from the FTA for their portion of the funding, which is a huge milestone and very exciting. And then on June 7th, we're having a community celebration to kick off the project. And you all are invited, folks you work with are invited. We'd love to have as many folks there as we can to learn about the project, celebrate that we're actually finally to the stage of building this project, and that will be at the Midtown Arts Center on June 7th. So the question is, have we ever considered offering Max for free to encourage folks to try transit? And the answer is yes. We are currently looking at that option, and may do a free period of 3 months or 6 months when we launch Max, to really encourage people to get out and try it and see what it's all about. A lot of transit agencies do that when they launch these types of services, and it's usually pretty successful. So we're hoping that will be something that we can do too. They'll be able to leave them and go to a seat. The things that I've seen, I believe the bike holder will be kind of like this thing where you hook the bike in. So it'll be like a closet of sorts where you put the bikes and then you go sit down. So it should be a lot easier actually than right now. I know a lot of people, or I'll just say myself, even the first time I went to put my bike on the bus, I was scared to death because you kind of have an audience, and you're standing there and you don't want to hold things up. So this will be a lot easier and hopefully less intimidating for folks that are biking and riding. Yes. It is, so it's just south of Harmony, and are you familiar, the question was, where is the South Transit Center going to be located? And it'll be where the Mason Trailhead is right now, if you're familiar with that on its southern end. There's south of Harmony, there's Woodley's Furniture on the west side of College. It's right before Woodley's. So if you were driving down College right now, you could watch for a sign that says Mason Trail, and before you get to Woodley's, and then there's a turn-in, and there's a parking lot back in there that's kind of a gravel parking lot right now, and there's a kiosk trailhead for the Mason Trail, and that area is where the South Transit Center will be. And they're actually going to start construction on the South Transit Center this summer, so almost like any day they're going to be starting that. So you'll probably see cones and stuff out there that'll give you an idea. Yeah, the South Transit Center will be great for folks that are coming into town from other areas. It will have over 150 parking spaces there, so they really are anticipating that it will be a true park and ride location. And the idea of someone coming from Loveland, parking there and hopping on Max to head downtown for an evening is exactly what we're hoping for. So it should be pretty cool. What hours will Max run? That's another exciting question to answer because it's a good answer. It will be running, it's anticipated that we'll have it running from 5 a.m. until midnight. So much better coverage than Fort Collins has seen in the past with other transit routes. So you will be able to go out, go downtown, enjoy that evening, and still get back to your car, or get up early and make it to that 7 o'clock meeting on Max. So it'll be good.
And will Max run on Sundays?
Question is, will Max run on Sundays? Right now it is not planned for Max to run on Sundays, but I do know that that's been brought up, and it's something that is being looked at because they do see the value of having it run on Sundays as well.
The question was, are there any local businesses who are really showing an exemplary model for transportation benefits? And the answer is yes. Of course, we have a lot of bike-friendly businesses in town. There is a national nonprofit called the League of American Bicyclists, and they are the ones who designate bicycle-friendly universities, bicycle-friendly communities, and bicycle-friendly businesses. So our community is gold, our CSU University is silver, and businesses, we have a large group of local businesses who have applied for this designation, and we have honorable mention, bronze, silver, gold, and platinum in our community. So I'm trying to plan a summit to get all of these businesses together to have us all share ideas and talk about what are the things excuse me, that have worked for small businesses, for large businesses, people in different locations, if they're close to trails, if they've implemented the storage or the showers, and what pieces have been the best received by their employees, and how do we share those resources and those ideas in our community. So you can go online to it's bikeleague.org, and you can find out who those local businesses are that have those designations, and then know that FC Bikes is working to create a summit to bring all those businesses together. And it would be an open invitation if other businesses wanted to come in and learn about the designation and how they could apply. You would all be welcome.
Molly and I have been working with Kathy and Deb and the rest of the Climate Wise folks and a large group of people to try to come up with an idea very similar to that of how Climate Wise can be more involved in helping businesses to encourage these other transportation options, because we know that there's some room for improvement there to really kickstart some things. So that was, as I was asking about who has programs, wanted to just kind of have the conversation of ideas of things that have worked well and haven't worked well, but just to throw a few out for you all, if you do have some things in place, it's just like a wellness program or other things. It's fun to provide incentives if you can. So maybe there's a breakfast that everyone gets to attend if they've come to work by bike, 10 times a week, or ridden the bus 10 times a week. I hope they're not coming that many times. They're going home and they're coming back. But a certain number of times throughout the month or a period of time, same for, riding the bus or different things like that. And a lot of times those things can tie in together if you do have a wellness program. I know at the city we do. We have a wellness program that incentivizes employees to do healthy things, and more recently they've started incorporating some of these types of behaviors as well, because they do promote a healthy lifestyle. So it may be something you could tie into another program that you already have. But a big part of this to really get buy-in is to keep it fresh and in front of employees, and don't just totally leave it up to them to come up with the idea of trying it out. But as businesses, you really can have some influence in how they choose to get to work.
So this year is our 25th annual Bike to Work Day. So we're going to have a huge celebration this year. We have a new logo we're about to unveil. And we have even more afternoon stations, and Bike to Work Day is just going to be a really huge celebration this year. We're expecting 8,000 riders this year on that one day. So in the past, businesses have been offered two different ways to get involved. One way is by hosting a breakfast station or an afternoon station. It's pretty high profile. That's what people think of when they think of Bike to Work Day. And the other way is for businesses to participate in a worksite challenge. So the Worksite Challenge typically has been for businesses that don't have time, staff, money, whatever the resource is, to put on a breakfast station or an afternoon station. So they've participated in this challenge. And the challenge is, we ask one champion at each work site to encourage people to ride that day, create internal incentives, and really be a cheerleader for this challenge. And then on that day, whatever the Bike to Work Day is, they travel around the work site and get people to sign up to say that they bike to work that day and how many miles. Then they send all that information back to our office, and we compile it, and then we have winners for small, medium, and large businesses. And they get bike prizes, right? So this year, it's been a really great challenge. It's lost a little bit of momentum because most of those people are now hosting breakfast stations, and there's not a lot of people participating in the worksite challenge anymore. And the prizes maybe just weren't that much of an incentive to participate. So this year we're exploding this program. We're going to do Bike to Work Wednesdays. So every Wednesday in June, July, and August, we're going to do this challenge. So the same idea, except that it's for about 16 or 12 or 16 Wednesdays in a row. You'll still report your numbers back to FC Bikes. We'll track it live on our website with some graphs so you can see who's the leader in each category. And then we have a sponsor who's not confirmed yet, but I can't say them out loud. But they're going to, for small, medium, and large businesses, they're going to provide our prizes. And the prize this year is either going to be a bike or it's going to be a bike rack. So the business can decide if they would rather have a bike that they can start an internal fleet for these errands and lunch meetings and things like that, or if they'd rather have a bike rack, if that's a bigger incentive for their work site. To recap, Bike to Work Day is June 27th. The Downtown Bike Show is June 28th, and that's a 6 to 8 p.m. It's like a car show, but it's with bikes. And then June 29th, Friday, is Bike and Jazz. So we'll be hosted at the Fossil Creek Park on the south side of town, and you can bike to the park and enjoy live jazz music in a really beautiful spot. So, and then the Bicycle Ambassador Program is a new program that we just launched 2 or 3 weeks ago with a series of 6 events. If any of you attended, it was so busy I don't recognize any of your faces because there were so many people at these events. It was such a big success. But the point of this program, big picture, is to share bicycle safety education with our greater community. So there's 3 different groups that we focus on. One is children, youth, and families. One is college students, and one is adults. The adults we break down into motorists, seniors, and businesses. So for all 3 of those groups, we do a lot of clinics, we do presentations, we do events. So we have groups that we go and present to, or they come to us for presentations. That would be a great way for your businesses to get involved if you want to have us come and give a presentation, like I said, about winter cycling, commuter benefits, how to fit a bike, things like that. And then there are 2 other programs that you could add to your wellness program if you were so inclined. One is a community patrol. So the community patrol volunteers, so all these people are volunteers. We can either come to volunteers can come to your businesses, or your businesses, your employees can be involved as volunteers. The community patrol volunteers would act as ambassadors whenever they're on their bicycles. So they'd carry tools and business cards and a wealth of incentives. And when they see someone with a flat tire, they'll stop and help them fix their flat. When they see someone stopped at a red light, they'll pull up next to them and say, "Thank you so much for following the rules of the road. Here's a bike light," or "Here's a gift certificate," in order to incentivize and encourage the continuation of that safe cycling behavior. They'll also have some of those crucial conversations about, hey, like this is what the rules of the road are, and this is why it's important that all of us follow the rules of the road so that our whole community is safe. And then the last one is a neighborhood open garage, and that will be a monthly commitment to open up your garage doors, pull out a bike stand and some tools, and then all the neighbors in the neighborhood can come down and bring their bikes down, do really basic repairs, learn how to change a flat, do route planning, watch bike movies, listen to bike music, have a kind of community around bicycles. So those are kind of all the pieces there. A lot of our volunteers are willing to come into businesses and have those conversations. There's room for businesses to get involved as sponsors with this program, and there's certainly room for your employees to get involved as volunteers, and it could be part of your wellness program. And there's a website there if you want more information about it.
Well, thank you guys so much for being a great audience, and if there's stuff you heard about today that you want more, or if you just want help brainstorming, we are more than happy to do that.